I didn't know. I never thought I was going to the fire service or anything like that. But I also know that if God opened the door, I'm going to walk in that door like I'm supposed to be there.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the First Things First, a show where we talk about setting our priorities in the right order to help us fall in love with the job again. My name is Helton Pereira, and today I am joined by my friend Jonathan Diaz. JD, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate you, everything that you're doing, man. Really putting the word out there and being a culture shifter. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Well, JD, we've had all kinds of crazy problems trying to get this thing started. We've recorded a couple of times. I actually reached out to you through social media, so I saw that you were posting some workouts and gear at the firehouse. You're sharing some Bible verses and just putting out a good persona of what I believe is a good Christian man, a good husband, and a good fireman. So tell us a little bit about who JD is.
All right, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate the compliments, man. I take that encouragement and I'll try to build upon it, man. We can always use more encouragement, I believe. So thank you for that. First and foremost, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Try to be a good Christian or a decent, obedient Christian. I'm a believer in God. That's the first and foremost thing. Everything after that falls underneath the umbrella. So try to be a good husband, right? Business owner, real estate investor, firefighter, son, right? Brother, all the things, right? But everything falls underneath what my belief is in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So, um, but that being said, I'm a sinner. I'll be a sinner to the day that I die. I want to just put that out there, right? I think a lot of people will hold back on spreading about, especially in the fire service, spreading about their belief because they believe that once you put that label or title out there, oh man, now I got to be perfect because the moment I do something that someone doesn't agree with, they're gonna say, hey man, aren't you a Christian? And they should. We do need that accountability. That is why we probably should put it out there more, so people can say, hey man, you say you're a Christian, but and we can have a conversation about it. So, but before we go any further, make sure that people know, like, yeah, man, I'm trying my best, and I'm going to continue to try my best, and I'm in love with the faith and what God's done in my life, and that stems everything else I will do, have done, and will continue to do.
JD, I think that's super important, man. I share a lot of the same beliefs, the same characters that you do. Obviously, being a Christ follower first, a husband, for me, a father. And then everything else falls after that. I think it's super important for us to recognize how we fall short of God's glory, but grace is what allow us to be the people who we are. And as you said, accountability, man, it's huge. And one of the things that I try to do is connect with individuals that are like-minded. That's one of the reasons I reached out to you. And I think that having somebody to hold you accountable for the things you believe in is definitely important, and so and that's one of the things that I love about the fire department, the brotherhood, the people that are around us that can hold us accountable for all the different things that we're doing. So tell us a little bit about your fire department journey. How did you get into it? What's your story?
All right, so let me put this out there so we can lose about 100 listeners right now, right? I'm a probationary firefighter. Proud to say that. I'm grateful and I'm so just grateful to be in this position as a probationary firefighter, right? So the guys that's been on 5, 10, 12, 20 years, don't tune off. I think that's going to be a lot of value and what we're going to share here from the seat that I'm sitting in, right? And I think it's important to hear the voice of a probationary firefighter because you're going to get a lot of podcasts and a lot of platforms, and you hear from seasoned guys. And some of the things may not be applicable, or it may be get lost in translation for some of the newer guys coming in. And hopefully, this is a reminder, a refresher of where a lot of those guys who do make it 12 plus years, 25 plus years, the seat that they were sitting in at one point. So I'm a probationary firefighter, and you know, I started different, started backwards, right, or in reverse, where most times people get into the fire service. And I know I'm jumping ahead, but and then we'll start businesses afterwards. I went the business, college, football route, and then got to fire service afterwards because of mentors, right? Guys just pouring into me, encouraging me, and that's encouragement is important as a man. We always need encouragement, right? As human beings, not just men, but from a man point of view, to have another brother just pour into you and encourage you and, and cheer you on and champion you on, and say, "Hey, man, I want you to come apply to my apartment. I want guys like you in my department." Without them saying, "Hey, you know what? They don't know anything about me as a firefighter. I could be a crap firefighter, right?" But they know my character. They know what my beliefs are. They know the type of guy and man that I am, and they know that those tangibles will translate to a successful career, hopefully, right? And I appreciate that, and I took them up on our offer, and I got started that route.
So you work in Central Florida and you
Yes.
live in South Florida. So you have you have some driving that you do every few days. So tell us a little bit about how that life is. You started in one fire department and moved on to another one.
Sure. So yeah. So again, this ties back to the benefits of me doing things in reverse, being invested in real estate, and my family being invested in real estate also. So um, our investments in real estate allow for a lot of opportunities, and those investments in real estate and things like that come through the glory of God first and foremost, right? It's not like we're some super real estate savvy people and we just make all good investments. No, it's just God and praying before we make decisions, and God has really showed us a lot of favor in that area. So being invested in real estate, we have property in the Keys, which allowed me to go through that fire department and get my certifications, right, which would then lead to a conditional offer. Should choose to accept it and go forward in it. Um, Again, I'm in South Florida, so I'm in Miami. So you got the Keys, Miami, then you got Central Florida, and then you got North Florida, right? So you have a lot of options there. So from the academy, applying to two departments here in South Florida, where a lot of my guys are. One of the places super competitive, right? So in South Florida, in Dade County, we call it the Big Three. You got Miami Beach, you got the city of Miami, and you got the county, Miami-Dade County. So those are the big three. Super Uber, and the firefighters who are from South Florida would tell you it's super competitive, right? Some places you could wait up to 2 years before you even get called back for an interview. All right, so that's just to give an idea of how it is here in South Florida, right? And every year, every semester, there's new candidates, right? So it's not like, oh, yeah, I'll wait 2 years and we're in the same place. No, you wait 2 years and then you're going against, or you are applying with people who are coming in with veteran experience, different languages, medic and other fire experience. So it's extremely competitive. So you can either wait, to get picked up, or you can kind of go a different route. I'm not the guy to wait around for anything. And that's something God's working on my heart with forever. But I don't like to wait if I have other options. So again, we've been in real estate. We have a place up in Central Florida. We have a nice little farm up there, so that allowed me options to apply to departments there. Because there are rules where and regulations where if you don't live within certain miles, you can't apply. They won't accept you, right? So the county that I work for is a big county, like bigger than we cover larger than Rhode Island and Delaware, right? Right. So our county is larger than those two states. So us having a property there allowed me to apply to departments there, and I got offers from both departments, and I went with the county for a lot of reasons, and it was a good decision. So now that's where I'm at.
So you were there about, I believe you said about 6 months. You're a rookie. Uh, you're an older rookie, if I may say, or a more experienced. So you're 40, right? You're 40 years old. Why would you join the fire department at 40 years old?
Yeah, so that's what I'm so grateful, man. Like I said, the seat that I'm sitting in, as seat meaning that as a probationary firefighter, and as a different probationary firefighter meaning that, man, I started. I'll be 41 in a couple of weeks actually. So, but for me, doing it in reverse, right? It's a blessing, right? I have a lot of benefits that come along with it. I mean, where I lack in fire experience, I make up with a ton of life experience, right? And there's a lot of benefits for being a little bit more mature, seasons that a lot of the pitfalls that like I get complimented all the time. Like I've never been in the military. My mom's an army brat, so I do have the upbringing. But guys will tell me all the time, "Hey, were you in the military before?" I'm like, no, man, I'm just a yes sir, no sir, old school, traditional type of guy. And I think that comes with just maturity, right? I mean, age, because they would have saw me at 21, 22, they're like, this guy right here, we gotta get him out of here, right? But because I'm starting at this age and at this stage of life, that it benefits serves me well. I think the guys appreciate that. They don't treat me like a probationary firefighter. They give me a lot of freedom to do the things I need to do, but that's because of how I present myself. And I come in and I do all the things. I'm there early. I ask for training. I ask to go do things. I make sure no senior guys carry anything. If I'm, they'll tell me stop. I'm not useless, I'm not helpless. I'm like, no, look, if I'm on a call, I'm doing everything that I can do. And I think they appreciate that, and that's coming from me being around a little while, right? Um, Again, if I would have joined anytime early in this, I don't think I would have ready. And God knows that. God, like, yeah, ease away a little bit, right? This is news for my family, because for my family it doesn't make sense financially. It doesn't make sense for me to do this time wise. Like before this, I'm home with my wife all day, so for me to be gone on the schedule that we're on, this is, but they know I make sound decisions. They know I pray before my decisions, so they support my decisions, and I'm grateful for them. But yeah, man, all in all, like, God, this is not a coincidence to God. God knew that this day would happen. I didn't know. I never thought I would go into the fire service or anything like that. But I also know that if God opened the door, I'm going to walk in that door like I'm supposed to be there, because I know I'm supposed to be here. So that's the place, the point of view I come from.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about, well, one of the ways that we connected was I found your Instagram page, which is Top Priority Personal Fitness.
Yes, sir.
So how did that prepare you to start a career in the fire department at 40 years old? And tell us a little bit about. I know that there's some background story about you and your wife there
Oh
as
yeah, oh
well.
yeah, yeah, man. So I've been into fitness my entire life, because coming up humbly, right? I don't want to sell the story. I came up super hard, which is true, but I don't want to glorify that. My mother did her best. We lived in public housing up in the Northeast. We talk about 16 floor apartment buildings and real rough areas, until she became a nurse and really worked her way to get us our first home. But before that, our babysitter was sports. So whether I wanted to play a sport or not, that's the babysitter. So hey, guess what? It's soccer season. You're in soccer. Guess what? It's football season. You're in football, whatever the case may be. So that was an option. That being said, and we moved around a lot, because when you are coming up with a lower income, right, you don't have a home. So the lease is up. You're moving to a new city, like it or not, right? And that's what it is. So what do you do as a kid when you're a new kid all the time? Hey, you play sports. That's the best way to get to be liked and make friends. So playing sports kept me in shape, and opened doors for me. That God opened doors through sports, and what I could look back on as a down thing, and be a humbug about it. God really say, you know what, you don't know what I'm doing now, but in the future you're gonna know it's gonna make sense, and it does. So that kept me in shape. That led me into personal training when I got into college. I did my first personal training gig at one of the local gyms there. Didn't know personal training was about sales and not actually personal training. So I was also green in that area, but that actually benefited me too. And I worked for almost every gym as a personal trainer. Very successful, very, very successful. When I say successful, meaning like even when I was personal training here in Florida, where I met my wife, I was number one in Florida, number 19 in the country for the club that I worked at regarding sales. And that's just being transparent, because you can't sell and then train. So be on the floor and be selling at the same time. So that's God multiplying time and energy, and just people saying, you know what, this guy, where he knows what he's talking about, and I can see him living the life he said, and I can feel his spirit, his heart, and I want to go with him. And you try to explain this to the sales reps of what I'm doing, how I'm making so many sales, and say, you can't duplicate that, right? That led to me meeting my wife. She was in personal training too, and from at a different place, at her own little business. And then we put our business together, and we started Top Priority in 2017. We actually established it, and we still do it today. She was just training the client a few minutes ago, so before the storm came in. So we have our garage gym here at our property here in Miami, and yeah, man. And so being fit, to answer your question, I know I rambled, but I just love talking about all this stuff, right? But being fitness is a up and down thing, right? You can be fit this month and be totally not fit the next month, right? So I like that challenge, and it's different levels of fitness, right? Because I've done bodybuilding, I've done all the things, but firefighting fitness is different, right? You need to really have strong cardiovascular work, strong pulmonary work, the muscles. That's great, and that's all good and everything, but you sucking down bottles isn't going to help anyone. So, um, especially for me, right, being coming into the fire service at 41, I know that the moment that I'm sucking air, that's always because he's 40, right? And granted, I don't have guys like that around me to say that, but in my head, that like how Kobe and Michael Jordan had that. So that's all I needed, right? I'm that guy where I was like, all I need is that little chip on my shoulder, and I want them to know, like, I'm gonna be the first guy if I can help it to run through things and get things done. And for the most part, I am. So that's how fitness is translated and correlated into to that as a probationary firefighter. I'm gonna keep saying this so everyone knows. So sometimes I talk and people may think he's been on the job for years. No, I'm just around a lot of guys who pour into me, and I respect them, and they continue to shape me. So
That's good. You're touching on something that I want to dig into a little bit is mentorship. You mentioned earlier how you had guys around you at church, guys that approached you at your business dealings that were able to pour into you and encourage you to join the fire service. So can you tell me a little bit about how those guys were able to make an impact on you and bring you to where you are today, not just relating to the fire service, but in life in general?
yeah, awesome, man. I think I have a lot of guys, man. I won't say the department they work at. They're all in South Florida. I can say that, but just because I don't know what their SOPs are and how they feel about it. But Lieutenant Cameron Wells, Lieutenant Cameron Wells, Jose Torres, a bunch of chiefs down here at the big departments, and so other guys that work in there, they really pour into me, man. Like I tell you, man, you meet people in the strangest ways, and no one walks around with a banner on their head. Hey, look, I do this, I own this, I work here. You just meet people off of character, and God continues to bring people in my life like yourself, like minded, and then you build relationships off that. You fellowship, and then you just keep continue to pray for each other, and when those things are all happening, great things happen, right? And these guys really just pour into me in every single way, not just in the fire service, right? Because most of our talks were never about the fire service. Like as a firefighter, a lot of times you talk with someone, you don't really want to talk about the fire service. Like we're not going to talk about calls or anything like that. So we're talking about business. We're talking about real estate. We're talking about the faith. We're talking about our love for Christ. We're talking about being married. That's how our conversations are. And that mentorship leads into, you know what, man? Dude, we got to get you in here, man. Because as you know, right, doing that, we had conversations. We can talk for days, right? We had good conversations. When it's edifying, these conversations go on. But they had to end sometimes. So these guys are like, man, I wish I could just get you in the firehouse, and for 24 hours we could just talk and work, and it's a blessing to do that. And a lot of times they say things like that, you just think they're just being nice. But when they start getting adamant and being serious and sending you links and saying, hey, do this, out of respect, at the very least, you should do it, right? Because no one wants to keep pouring into someone who's not going to take their advice, right? Respectfully, my wife and I, we talk about these things. I said we have people that will mentor to ask us questions, and they'll do the complete opposite, or they just won't do it at all. We call it that's an ask hole, right? So when we ask a lot of questions, you tell them, they listen, they don't do it. It's like, man, well, at some point we got to sever that relationship because it's not benefiting either one of us, right? So I never want to be an asshole and ask questions and not implement it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and everything doesn't work for everybody. But I gave it a shot, and it's working. It's working really good. Through grace and glory to God. So that's how the mentorship came in. I hope I answered the questions. A lot of things,
No,
but
no, that's good, man. You seem to be the kind of person who you love pouring into people and serving people and helping people come along and getting to them to a better place. So we've talked a little bit about how that life of servant leadership really is what I would describe as has driven you into joining the fire service. So can you talk about a little bit about that? How that desire to serve others has brought you to do what you're doing today?
yeah, that's a great question, brother. So I'm truly, truly, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I came from humble beginnings where food stamps. This is back when food stamps were like paper food stamps, not like the card where you can be discreet. So friends have dollar bills, and you're going with the brown little colored paper, and so I grew up with all of that and living with that, and going from public housing to actually owning our first home to losing that home. So I know how fast it changed. There's a lot of reasons why that contribute to the way my wife and I we do business and everything else, but in doing that, I've learned how loving people can be and how without people pouring into us, we wouldn't have made it, right? So my wife and I and our partners, we have a bunch of charities for the last 5 or so years. We do clothing drives, toy drives, food drives, a lot of it out of our own pocket and whatever we put from our businesses. My wife and I, we don't have kids yet. We maybe will try next year. We're just very pragmatic in our thought process and what we're investing in right now. But even though we don't have kids, we still serve in the kids ministry, right? That's like our big thing: men's ministry and kids ministry. So you may say, well, how's a person with no kids in the kids ministry? I don't know. I ask God this all the time. I pray for opportunities to serve, and God said, "Here's the kids ministry. This is where I need help at. That's not about where I want to be at. It's where God wants me to be at." And God, put me in the kid, and I'm really great with kids. Kids love me. My wife and I, we learn a lot about each other because before we have kids, we get to see how our potential parenting styles may be, right? But how we interact with the kids and the kids ministry, and we're completely different. I'm the one that's like free for all. I don't really care about the structure. We're gonna have fun, and surprisingly, my wife is the one that's like, all right, guys, we got to stick to the game plan, and so. The fire service basically ended up being another opportunity for me to serve. I mean, after we have our charities, that's one way to serve. After we help out people in what we do in business, that's another way to serve. But then there was just something that kept tugging at my heart. I kept, not feeling a void, but just saying, God, I want to do more. You built me with a lot of energy. You created me with a lot of free time. Where can I serve at? And this fire thing just kept getting presented to me. So at the very least, this is another opportunity for God to use me to serve, and not necessarily in the way that most people would say. I want to come in and save people and help people. Not in that sense. That's one sense of it, but I think more so just in the firehouse of just being an example for other men who may never ever get to see or hear about the word in the capacity that they hear about it. Right? We may hear about the word for someone, and we're like, man, yeah, this guy, I know he loved God, but he's not like a manly man. He's just whatever that means, right? But I think that I have relatability with a lot of people. I think that people relate to me and they say, you know what, man? I hope they say, you know what, man? I'm gravitated to what you're saying. Tell me more. And I think God's going to use me in that way before he ever uses me to go to a cardiac arrest or to any other call, whatever, right? I don't want to get too much details about that, but again.
No, I think that there's definitely a ministry in the firehouse, and it's one of the things that made me start the First Things First. It was many conversations that I was having with guys and girls at the firehouse that we don't have the opportunity to have those conversations in a 5 minute that we interact with the public. Yes, I believe that we are called to serve the people in our community, but we are just also called to serve the men and women that we serve with, that we spend 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours at a time at the firehouse. And I truly believe that is also opportunities that God gives us to have those relationships, those conversations with people that are at the firehouse with us. And I think that our relationship with the fire service can be a love-hate relationship, right? We spoke about how a lot of people in the fire service, they come in with that hope of that attitude, like, hey, I want to help, I want to be here for people, I love what I do. And throughout the years, because of what we do, because we get the sleepless nights or the things that we see, or our relationships outside of the fire department, we end up just getting beat up so much that we kind of fall out of love with the fire service. And that's where I found myself at a point. And I think that it's important. I think one of the things that you were talking about, just being a probationary firefighter, at the age that you are at, I think it brings value to people to understand a different perspective, and I think that your relationship with the fire service is a different relationship that many people that join the fire service young have. And I would like for you to share that a little bit you don't have that love hate relationship with the fire service that a lot of people at your age would have. So
Sure.
share with us a little bit of how do you navigate that.
Thank you, brother. And that's why I think it's beneficial for me to be a probationary firefighter and be able to speak about it, right? Because you're going to have a school of thought that say, man, this guy's a probationary firefighter. He should just be quiet and not talk. And there's some truth to that. There's times where I don't talk at all, right? I don't talk so much to the point where I can come off antisocial, right? They're like, hey, where's the new guy? Oh, he's over there reading, right? And even that would be a problem, right? It could be a problem. This guy's over here, he's in his books. He doesn't know that, that this is going to be, you know, more experience based in the books. The books don't NFPA standards, whatever, right? So I say that to say that there's always will be something that or someone that doesn't like the way you're going about doing it, right? Or position they feel like you don't qualify. But as a probationary firefighter, as a Christian probationary firefighter, as a believer, I'm qualified off that alone. I'm qualified because God has opened this door for me. I'm qualified because of the experience that God put me through. And it's up to me to continue to build upon those qualifications, not the qualifications of another man, not the qualifications of what the state standards are. No, the qualifications of what God called me to my heart to speak upon and to implement and to live, right? Um, to answer your question more well roundedly, I just want to kind of say that again because I know whenever I answer a fire question, if it's an answer that someone doesn't agree with, they'll say, "Well, he's a probationary firefighter." If they agree with it, then it's all good. So before I answer these questions, I want to remind people where I'm at, right? So all in all, I'm grateful because, like right, there's a lot of things that's going to happen that you're going to see in the fire service on calls that can change a person's heart, that can change a person's mindset, change a person's temperament, and that's natural. There's no denying that, right? But for me, my identity isn't in the fire service. Like people will say, you know what, I love the fire service. I love the opportunity that the fire service provides. I don't idolize, and I'm not saying that people who say they love the fire service are idolizing. I'm just speaking from my point of view that I don't idolize anything. I love my wife. I don't idolize my wife. That's my best friend. That woman's gonna humble me. She's gonna love on me. She's gonna encourage me. She's gonna cheer me on. But I'm not idolizing her. If I idolize her, then my relationship to her is up and down based on how our relationship is, right? So this is how we can fall out of love with the fire service. Being like, man, as long as I'm promoting up, as long as I'm getting my promotion, as long as I've got a good crew, I love it. The moment I don't have a good crew, the moment I have a bad call, the moment I'm on the rescue, oh, I don't love it. No, right? So when people say, JD, I hope you get a good call. To me, every call is a good call. If I got to do a lift assist, it's a great call. So I guarantee if I approach it with a heart posture that God put me here, I'm learning something from this call, and not just from a technical standpoint, but from a standpoint, a human standpoint. This lady fell down, called me at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's something for me to learn there. It may not be about me. It may be something she's going to get from me or from us in our experience, and et cetera, right? So if I never idolize it, I can't be in love or I love it. If I only put my faith in God, right, and understand that this is an opportunity, this is a privilege here. A lot of people want to be in the fire service, they'll never be in the fire service. They're gonna go get their certs, they're gonna go and they'll never get hired, right? And that's for a reason, probably, right? There are people who are in it who probably maybe should not be in it. That's also true too. So I don't want to say this and make it seem like I don't respect or come off any type of way. I respect the fire service. I respect the great men and women who put in work, who do it with a good heart and don't. It's easy to get to lose compassion. That's just normal, bro. Like we're human. Like things are gonna happen, and I know guys will say, well, wait a couple years, give them a couple years. Oh, you can say that, but when a couple years happen and I don't, nothing changes, then what's gonna be then? Oh, give a couple more years. Oh man, it's the same thing with me. And I don't want to shame anyone because everyone's path is different, everyone's testimony is different. But I don't want to ever get divorced, right? Um, if I don't, right, if I keep a 25-year marriage, 25 plus year marriage, right, and forever, like lifetime marriage, I should say, that's better. If I keep a lifetime marriage, it won't be because of me, right? It won't be because of me. It will be because of my faith in God and what I'm doing. If it was because of me, this has been over a long time ago. Same thing with this fire service. I'm not in shape at 41 because of me. I'm in shape because God allows me to keep my central nervous system intact. He allows me to keep my limbs and keep my five senses and be able to move And it's up to me to be a good steward, right? To have stewardship over the body and vessel you put me in. Just like the opportunity as we have as firefighters, it's up to us to be a good steward over that oath and over the opportunity, over the department, over the city, over the citizens, of the time we have to put in there. Like, there's no need to not be in love in regards to the opportunity. And again, I think that it's more. I don't think people say when people say love the fire service. I think they're just saying it more so out of that's kind of like the normal language. I think people really mean they love the opportunity. They love what they learn from it. They love what they're getting built from it, inside and out.
Yeah, there's a fire chief that I can't remember who it is that he talks about that it seems like we're the only type of workplace that people talk about how they get excited when they hear the tones drop or get excited about a house fire. And he used the example, a trash man doesn't see a trash can on the side of the road and gets really excited and hyped up. I think that you're right. We are excited and we love the opportunity that it affords us. Whether it's being in a team environment, having the brotherhood in the firehouse, or the type of training that we get, the type of people that we get to meet. It's the different things that the fire department affords us that we are in love with. And I think that we can experience that also in other places, right? You already mentioned that before joining the fire service, you're a business owner. You had the restaurant business, you have the personal training business, you're into real estate. And obviously that is just as hard to manage and balance out as in the fire service. So can you kind of like compare and contrast a little bit the different lifestyles that you had when you're just in the entrepreneur world and now with the fire service? So talk to us a little bit about how to manage that.
So right, church, the gym, and the fire service, right? It just hit me right now. They all have the same thing in common, very similar, right? Take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt because it's a new thought. The church, fire service, and fit in the gym are places that people are where everyone looks like they know what they're doing. Most of the time, we don't know what we're doing, right? But there's a place where we have to come together and work through our shortcomings together, right? So we go to the gym, we say, hey, man, show me how to do this the proper form. Or we go to the church and say, hey, man, brother, can you pray for me? I'm struggling in my finances, my marriage, whatever, right? We go to the fire service and say, hey, how are we going to pull this ladder up? If we catch this hydrant, what do you want me to do? You want the smooth bore or you want the fog nozzle? What do you want? Because I'm working with a different captain there, a different lieutenant there, right? Right, rather than pretend, oh yeah, this is how it's going to go every single time. That's not the case, right? So now, time management wise, because like you said, all those things is a blessing to have in my life. Um, those are all things for that God has put in my life to be a steward over, to multiply, to maximize, and to utilize. So people can see God, the glory of God through those things. It's not for me, right? Like we have our farm, right? That farm and the acres we have it there isn't for me to go say, hey, right? Because you mentioned me commuting. I don't commute all the time. If it's a Sunday or like a day where I come down with my wife or something, I'll come down. Most of the time I'm at the farm, so I'm that's a blessing in itself. That I don't have to commute 3.5 hours wherever to go. That's a blessing. Some guys are making that commute, but God has opened a door for me to be able to have that. And I say that because having that place, my wife and I, we invite everyone there. We meet people and say, "Hey, brother, come out to the weekend. Get out of Miami. Get out of South Florida. Let's get away so we can fellowship together. So we can just be out in nature and just and pray and hear God, right?" And we do that with an open heart. And God, I believe God sees that and He allows us to say, "You know what? Like the parable of the talents, right? You did this with this. I'm going to give you this, right? To do more, not for you, but for to multiply." So, as far as time management, if you notice, like everything we said, time management is key. My wife, we have different strengths, right? What she's good at, I'm not good at. What I'm good at, she's not good at. And it's strange, right? Like for the reviews for our restaurant, I do all the reviews. I'm really good with being professional and being, empathetic. In person, I'm not. In person, I'm like, listen, you're wrong here. This is something God's working on. But in person, my wife is the most passive, nice person to the point where I'm like, you gonna let this person do this? And she's like, no, it's fine. But as far as reading it, she don't like the stress of reading it and like she takes it on so much. So we have different strengths and God makes us together. So that works out in all our businesses. I don't do any business that my wife's not involved in. So if someone comes to me and say, JD, I got this. this idea, this venture you want to go on, I'll talk to my wife. If she's not with it, I'm not doing it, right? And so she's involved in everything that we do together, which is a blessing, right? And another thing, biblically speaking, if you're a Christian, you're a believer, how you treat your wife is going to determine a lot of success. The Bible states that if you do not be loving to your wife, your prayers can go unanswered. If you notice of everything that we said, right? I've never said anything about the name of our restaurant. I've never outside of Youth Mission Top Priority because that's how we met social media. I never said any of the books that I have online, that I have on Amazon. Never mentioned no title. Never tell you any names of our business because that's not to. I don't. We don't need more customers. God does that, right? He provides. And I'm never trying to get more people into anything. So if you notice, we're only talking about things to benefit and edify, so people can duplicate and see that it's possible. So I'll get that question a lot. Why are you here, brother? Like, it's hard for someone to kind of compute why I'm in the fire service, knowing all the things I have going on. So guys would say, well, why are you here? As if the only reason to be here is if I needed money, which don't make any sense. Because if we're talking financially, the numbers don't really make sense, right? And respectfully, right? So people say, well, if you do got this, and why are you here? It's like, man, do you know there's things bigger than me? Like, man. And unless you really, it's hard to kind of explain that to someone without coming off a certain way. You know, why are you here, man? Hey, man, because man, God opened the door, and I believe it's opportunity to serve. Even if they know it's true and they can feel the sincerity and the genuineness of your, they'll still be rubbed the wrong way because that may not be the reason they're here. They may be here, like you said, for the pension. Things they may not say out loud. Being honest, they're here for the pension. They're here to wear the T-shirt. They're here for, bro. I'm so grateful. I never needed that. Like, this is being transparent. I was a pretty cool guy. I'm just arrogant as I can make it sound. Cause I want to be like relatable, right? I believe I'm a pretty cool guy without any T-shirts, brother. Like, I'm 40. Like, I'm okay, bro. I'm married. Like, my wife married me before. She didn't marry me as a firefighter. My wife don't care if I do another day of firefighting. I don't care if I do another day of firefighting. If God tells me go home tomorrow, don't ever go back, I won't go back. But if God continues to open doors for me and tells me and provides me responsibility to be used, I pray that I do a great job of not letting Him down, because then I would let myself down, which then I would let my wife down, and then everybody else afterwards. So a lot of responsibility comes with this. I appreciate it, and I plan on maximizing. Hope I answered the question.
No, that's a great way to answer it. We've talked about being called, right? Being called to do things, and you mentioned how you felt that calling of coming to the fire service, of joining a fire department. And one of the things that you talked about was in a way to be humbled.
Oh yeah.
So can you share a little bit about how that calling of God in your life and the lessons that you're learning through doing this?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. My thought process of wanting to get into the fire service because I felt the need. I don't want to say to be humble. I'd used that phrase before, but more so, I know I needed to work on humility in my life. Again, with success comes things that can knock you off. The enemy wants you to do that. The enemy wants you to say, "Oh, look, you don't need God for this," or how we can get loss of compassion in the fire service. I was getting kind of loss of compassion in life, if that made sense. I would be like, man, they're squandering their finances. That's why they're in that financial situation. Because I have conversations with guys say, hey, bro, how can I get like this? How can I do this? And I'll talk to them like, bro, like you're doing this, and I could feel myself being not compassionate, as if wasn't in their shoes many years ago, where I was struggling in certain areas, right? Whether it be finances, whether it be with pornography, whether it be with a bunch of different topics that we can have 5, 10 episodes on, right? Um, so God, I would talk to my wife and I would pray. My wife would say, I've been praying and talking to God and fasting a lot, and I think that I need to get into it. I think that I'm going to take this opportunity to fire service even more serious and really get into it because I want God to show me things, and I want God to um, create the new wine and the crushing that I need. Right? It's very dangerous to do that, to ask for these to talk to God in this way. But I talk to God like I'm talking to you. Like, I talk to God like I don't go, oh God, holy thou. I don't talk to God like that. Right? I talk to God straightforward, and I say, God, I feel like I don't know if you're working in this area. I think it's weird. I think this that, and these doors open, and I've been humbled every single day that have been involved in the fire service, even from EMT school. From EMT school all the way through, I've been humbled in many areas of my life in different ways. Like again, this is new to me. When I go into a firehouse, I tell them straightforward. I don't know anything. I'm green. Even if I know it, I say, teach me like I don't know it. I'm not the guy to come off and be a poser, right? Because there is a thing called imposter syndrome. But so as an EMT, you're going through the stuff, and I don't know anything. They're using a whole different vernacular. This is a whole new terminology. So although it's easy, right, as you become a medic and all these things, you're like EMT school. But to a person that's never heard these words before, you're like, what? This type of shock, that type of shock. What's happening? I have no clue what's going on. Pass the first exam, get a 64 in the next one. And at that time, I was renovating a property with my father-in-law. We were doing a property at 9 to 5, and I would go to EMT school 6 to 10. So I thought I can do it because I passed the first quiz, got a 64 in the next quiz, and I said, hey, I got to focus on this. I got to take it serious. I got to be a good steward of the opportunity I got because you're taking somebody's seat who could be in that seat, right? And I fell in love with it. And later towards the end of that semester, my dad passed away, and I got even more in love with it. Still learning a lot. I'm humbled every time I do anything. Same thing with fire service. I'm like, man, like, and just guys come in with experience because their parents or whoever and they're exposed to it, and it's amazing. But for me, it's humbling to me, even just setting up IV or spiking a bag. These things that look are minuscule to guys who've been on the job 5, 10, 25 years to a new guy with no experience in this. This is humbling. This is refreshing. This is new because that matters. Mess up a bag, spike in the bag, spike the wrong bag, mess up IV, and see how bad things go for that medic, right? Or whatever, vice versa, right? And then you'll see how important those things are, right? You cannot look at these things that they're not like washing the engine, washing the apparatus, right? Doing these little things from a probationary firefighter that could be overlooked by somebody 10, 15, 20 on the job. These things are terribly important. I value these things. I love these things. I'm only going to get to be a probation firefighter once. I'm going to embrace it and soak it up and really just gravitate to it and just and live in it, right? And try to be pay it forward. I hope I answered your question. I just
No,
love.
no, you did, man. I think that part of this as well is stepping out in faith, right? I was listening to a podcast just a couple weeks ago. It's actually the Faith in the Firehouse podcast. Dan had Griffin Coiner in. He is the Stash Salt guy, and Griffin was talking about how we read about these big names in the Bible, these guys that take big steps of faith. We talking about David, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Noah, all these guys that have to rely on God and they have to take a big step of faith. And it's very easy for us to read these stories of faith in the Bible when it's not us. But then when it's our time to take that step of faith and the only thing we have to rely on is God, it's a whole different story. So can you share with us a little bit about how what I'm assuming was to take that big step of faith to join the fire service? Because you already said you were set. You had your business, you had your wife, your family, like everything was already set. Why take that step of faith in joining the fire service?
That's a good question, and that's a good point. And to you too, man. Like before I go answer this question, man, there is a movement, and granted, this comes from a probationary firefighter standpoint, but I don't need 20 years on a job to know that the culture is a culture, right? I have eyes. I can see right away what the culture is, right? It's amazing that the movement that you and the podcast that you just mentioned, I see the movement. We spoke about this before. I see the shift happening, and the open talk about faith in the firehouse, right? But overall, keeping first things first, prioritizing these things. It's a big movement that's happening, and that's needed. So I hope that it continues to shift that way, and the new norm becomes things being more okay to talk about because they'll put SOPs in place where you can't do stuff like this, right? But we're here doing it, and it's great. But to step out, like you said, like before David fought Goliath, he took on a bear. He just didn't show up and fight Goliath. That's not the way God orders things. Before Moses did anything, and I don't want to get too deep into character because I don't want anyone to get lost in the sauce, right? But before God allows you to do anything, you're getting prepared, right? Although I don't have 10 plus years in a firehouse, God has for surely prepared me in many different ways to be ready and sufficient and proficient in this job at the level that I'm supposed to be proficient at this job. So the faith part is good and it's big, but I'm also very highly confident. Like I said, I walk into rooms that God put me here, right? Because there are, again, imposter syndrome is real. You can be like, man, do I? And it happens to me almost every day. Like, man, do I know what I'm doing? Like, do what? I think most people, most firefighters will say they've had that moment where, like, man, dude, am I even good at this stuff? Like, you get yelled at, you get chewed out, right? I haven't had that moment, but I'll say this: I get humbled every day, and I pray before every shift. I pray before every call, pray during the call, pray after the call, because I know that there's nothing I'm going to do that I can't do without God. I don't care how good I be, whether I'm first year on the job or 20 years on the job. I need God to make sure I use my hands right, and use me right. So the faith part of it is just I also have the confidence that God prepared me, because the enemy will try to plant seeds in your head, and try to plant seeds in your heart to make you fear. Even though the Bible says, "Do not fear" 365 times, right? Um, but and that's where it comes from, man. Just I just if I go off my own skills, I know I'm not ready. It's minimum standards, right? It's minimum standards. It's minimum, of course. There's no way. Like, there's not enough training in the world to ever be like, oh, I'm ready. I don't care if you're on a job 20 years in a job, bro. Like, you will get that call and be like, whoa, right? And that's why we have special ops. We have heavies, right? Because you're a firefighter for 20 years, but these guys are on the job for 10 years, but they're in the heavy. They're in the special ops. They know more than you. What are we going to say? We're going to discredit? We can't discredit these things. Everything has their place. Like the body of church, that we're the body of Christ. The hand is not more important than the foot. Their probate is no less important than a person with 20 years on a job. It's the same thing. Um, Now, does that not mean that are we equal? No, not equal. There's no way I'm equal to a guy 20 years on a job. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we're all important, right? So you can't just discredit something because it's a probie talking. And far as back to the message that you're putting out there, that we're trying to spread, and we're trying to spread in a way where it's not like it's a slow drip. We're not beating nobody over the head with the Bible, because that doesn't relate to guys like us. That doesn't relate to the firehouse. You come in the house, and I bring my Bible in the firehouse every day. Right? They see it, and I'm a probie, and I'm setting the standard of how I want to be, not how I want you to be, but how I'm going to be. I'm going to preach the truth as best I can. If at the end only the people that hear it gravitate to it, so be it. It don't gotta be popular, it's gotta be true. And I gotta do my best to spread it. And that's as simple as that. Probie or non probie.
Man, that's good, brother. It's as you already said, it's standing by what you believe. It's having conviction and knowing who your identity is in. We already talked about this. I think you have a very unique perspective of where you sit right now as a whether you're probie or not. You're coming into the fire service and you have some life experience. You have your convictions and you have your faith in your believing God, and that is what makes you who you are. And your experiences, we already talked about that. Years in the fire service does not translate to experience.
That's
You know,
right.
so what you bring in and what you're really willing to put into the job is really what's going to make you a good fireman. So I really love that about you. And again, you come into the fire service with a different perspective, and you also have a different story, and it's unique in a way. You work in Central Florida. You live in South Florida, and you have a wife who is now trying to figure out what that means, at home. So talk to us a little bit about how is dealing with home away from home, and how your wife has managed all this.
My wife, if it wasn't for my wife, I could say this too. If we weren't married, if it was my wife, I wouldn't go to the fire service. She's a big part of me challenging myself. She always supports me challenging myself. Right? I could have just rode off into the sunset, you know, because during that waiting period, I'd be transparent. During that waiting period to get picked up, it was like a year, only a year of waiting, barely a year waiting. And I know people, and I say that respect to the great the glory of God, because I know guys are waiting 3, 4, 5 years to get picked up, right? So through the glory of God, I only had to wait a year. But during that was a long time for us because I'm putting everything into this. I'm studying. I'm preparing for tests. I'm working out. It's not like I'm just sitting around on my hands waiting for a year to go. So I'm putting a lot of time in. During that time, we got other things that are happening. My wife was like, "Well, even my wife was like, hey, look, we have a business in Mexico. We can go do it right now. We're just waiting on you." Like, and I'm like, "Oh, I can't because this, and that." So it's not making sense to them, like because we're not accustomed to this. It's not in my hand type of thing. It's like, well, you got your certs, right? Yeah. You got your stuff done, right? Yeah. You're prepared, right? Yeah. So we're waiting for us. It's not on me. There's a human factor involved in this. I interview well, yeah, but that panel doesn't feel whatever they feel. If they already have people in mind, and it's a whole bunch of nuance that we don't have to talk on this podcast that go into getting hired and promotions. There's a lot of things in play, right? And ultimately, when it's God's timing. So my wife is very fortunately for her, for us, that she's business minded. She has like I have a lot of stuff going on. She has this amount of stuff. Like again, she was just training a client right now in person. Which if we train in person and client, it's going to be worth it for to say, right? So usually we're online and stuff like that. But she train in person and train in person in person. It's going to be worth it. So she's doing that, and she does all the payroll for the restaurant and it's not like she's just sitting here like, I wonder what my husband's doing. She's super busy. She's in love, right? So she wants me here all the time. She's like, no, just come. Like, if I go up there, it's like, you should come home tomorrow. I'm like, let's get just do a 24-hour shift. But you should drive the 4 hour drive back, So she wants me here all the time. I'm so grateful that my wife wants me here. I'm grateful we're not at this stage where she's like, no, just go, kill, kill all the free time with overtime. Just go, right? And that happens. That's the reality. I'm not trying to shame anyone or anything, but we have to be mindful that balance of my wife understanding that I'm going, but understanding that she wants me here and I'm fulfilling my duty. So part of it is her. A big part of it is she's a woman of God. She loves the Lord. Um, you know, she's Mexican, right? My wife is Mexican, so that comes with whatever that means to you, right? I know what it means to me, but whatever that means to you. So, and very family oriented, and I think that with my wife, her prayers and her understanding allows us to do everything. I'm not the guy that's like, oh man, happy wife, happy life. I'm not the guy that's like, my wife is everything because I don't think you can attach anyone to your story. I would still do a lot of things without my wife, but in this particular case, I think my wife for sure is the reason why I do most of the things and not all the things. And I'm just grateful for her helping because, man, how do I sum up all the things that she does and how great she is in a short time? She's just wonderful. Even when I'm not perfect, which I'm not perfect a lot, she's loving. She doesn't treat me. She doesn't love me the way I deserve to be loved. Sometimes, meaning that there's love that I don't deserve, and she still loves on me. Same way God doesn't treat us the way I sin deserve, and for that alone is what I'm grateful for. And don't get me wrong, I think I'm a pretty good husband. Like like I don't want. I'm not the guy that's like because you hear guys talk about their wife, and I think that turns into like I'm just such a bad person. And she's just an angel. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we have a great understanding of what our goals are as a biblical marriage that we're striving for. We understand that it's going to take some years to get this right. Communication styles are different, and we grow and we're learning. And yeah, it's God. It's not even her. It's God working through her, and she knows that. Like if it's on her, I would be here all the time. I would never leave the house if it's on her. But it's God in her understanding and helping her submit and helping her to follow leadership. Because my wife is a leader in her own thing. That was one of the biggest things we had to overcome, her submitting and following leadership. And I had to understand that it's not just her submitting because of the biblical roles. It's her submitting to me as I submit to Christ, right? As I lead as Christ, for her to lead. And sometimes she'll still submit even when I'm not leading as close to Christ as and I love her for that. So I love her for her telling me the truth about myself too all the time.
Yeah, man, I love that. As you're saying, it's a marriage, God-centered marriage where God comes first, and the love for each other comes out of that. And you lead her in a loving way, and she submits in a loving way, and it's beautiful, man. With that, you are able to do the things that God has called you to do. It's a good picture of what a godly marriage is supposed to look like. And as she helps you or allows you to do all the things that you do, You obviously have goals. You have things that you want to accomplish. Many people join the fire service young because they want to do the career. They want to do their 20, 25 years, get a good pension and retire early, and perhaps buy a fishing boat and ride into the sunset. And you already talked how you kind of did what most people do, but backwards, right? You started the business and real estate, and now you're in the fire service. So I'm assuming you may or may not do the next 20 to 25 years. So talk to us a little bit how that looks different for you, and really what you want to, I guess, not that you want to leave a name in the fire service, but what is your outlook from where you stand today as a 40-year-old probationary firefighter?
Sure. Yeah, with everything that we do, right? I believe there's a personal reason, there's a professional reason, right? And I think that we have to be honest with ourselves, right? You touched on it a little bit too, right? My wife and I we always talk about this. When we have kids, if we have kids, God bless us with kids, right? We've been really kind of smart about making that decision because we both come from different backgrounds, and that's important. We just try to. That's how we make all the decisions. But basically, we always talk about our kids have their inheritance already put to the side. They're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We have our retirement. Obviously, it's in God's hand, right? I don't want to talk like I know the future because I don't. But from where we're sitting right now, this date, everything's going to be okay. And my wife always reminds me that we don't need this retirement or anything like that, right? So I have to be mindful. That's why we talked earlier. I'm into taking calculated risks. I'm not just going to be out here cowboying and everything, right? There's a time and place to be a cowboy, but there's a time and place like, hey, man, that's all fun. Y'all, do your thing, right? I've been 25, 27, 30 before. I've been there before. But for me, where I'm at, we're in different seats. So I have to be smart about how I go about doing things. Now, as far as the retirement goes, right? Before I even touch on that, like we have a retirement, so I can retire in 10 years if that was the case, right? As we found out, like even our insurance is better than the insurance that they offer, right? So that's kind of how, from my seat, where we're at in a lot of the situations that they offer, right? So grateful for that because no one can ever say, hey, you got into it for this, that, or otherwise, right? And that keeps me humble, knowing why I'm actually here. But also, too, there are things that you can't pass down financially. There's certain, like for example, I learned that even more so, or came even more dawned upon me when I was in going through schooling, and you see guys and girls and firefighters rather who are like, oh yeah, my parents are. I'm a third generation. For me, my kids to have that option, it has to start somewhere. So the personal reason is like, you know what? If my kid, I'm not sure if my kids even want to go to school, but if they do decide to go to school and go to college, right? I open every door as a dad, as a father, that I possibly could for them. And part of that say, if you want to go into fire service, I open that door for you already. Hopefully, I do a great enough job with people. Like, oh, your dad was Jonathan. Your dad was JD.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. Well, we've been going for a little bit over an hour, and I appreciate your time to sit down with me and go over some of these things. I think that I would love to keep this conversation going, and as we mentioned, I think we're gonna do this again. But I just want to give you the opportunity to have any last minute thoughts that you want to share with somebody, whether it's somebody that it's in your position or somebody who's thinking about fire service or starting a business on the side, or anything that you want to touch on before we take off.
Sure. The first thing I would say is Psalms 23:1. It basically just says, "The Lord is my shepherd, and I lack nothing." And I think that if you put that in your heart, Christian or non-Christian, if you just put that in your heart, I think it will carry you a long way, man. You have everything that you need because God has already ordained your life. Whether you know it, believe it or not, God has already made your life where it's supposed to be, and just kind of let that seep in your heart. So, if you have a Bible, read the book of Proverbs, which is a book of knowledge, a book of wisdom, I should say, and it's 31 Proverbs. If you just read that and let God work on the rest, the Bible, God, faith, and everything else will fall in line from there for sure, 100%.
Awesome, JD. Thank you so much, man. Once again, thank you so much for spending time with me. Guys, please go follow him on Top Priority Personal Fitness. He's on Instagram. Shoot him a message, reach out to him. And for everybody else, thank you for spending some time with us. If this is the kind of stuff that you like, please like, share, leave a comment, and thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.